Good afternoon, everyone. All of you would remember seeing that TV series called Star Trek. There was this line in it that Captain James T. Kirk, played by William Shatner, would say, conquering areas or places where no man has gone before. So these ladies, they are the ones where no women had gone ever before. So please put your hands together for these two wonderful ladies from the Indian Air Force who broke all the barriers and all the glass ceilings and reached there. It's a great honor for me to be sitting with them and moderating this session with you. We'll start real quick, we don't have much time, so we'll make the most use of it. First, ma'am, you're a helicopter pilot, right? First day, remember going towards the helicopter and seeing people wondering whether this wonderful lady would be.
I know what he's going to say. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Before you finish your question, can I start answering?
Yeah, already finished.
Right. So it wasn't the helicopter. The first time was a fixed wing that they made us fly. It was called HPT-32. A lot of my veteran seniors there would know. And I had never sat in an aircraft in my life. So what I'm talking about is 40 years back, right? Flying was a luxury. It wasn't a necessity like it is today. So many things have changed. We've been sitting on the table discussing with these wonderful ladies how times have changed, how opportunities have come up for women today. But in those days, that wasn't the case. And the first day I flew into the aircraft, the HPT-32, my instructor, he was there, and I was road sick always, right? So I knew I had some mental barriers I had to overcome. So I carried a puke bag with me in my overall pocket. And the first sortie, the instructor wants to show off a lot. So he wants to just kind of send a message that you better behave yourself and see what skills I have, and you better be a good pupil. So when we went up in the skies, he started doing aerobatics. And I was now scared that if, in case I puke, that will not be a good sign that I will get, though they expect you to do that, I mean it's natural. But interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, I came back and I did not puke at all. So you realize the mental strength that you have, and you realize that wherever your focus goes, the energy flows and the results show. So that was one lesson I learned, which was so beautiful. So helicopters came easy because I knew they were slow, they were low. And yeah, so that was the first experience.
So Shivika ma'am, she was part of the pioneer batch, the first ever batch of women who got into the Air Force. A big round of applause for her. And you know what? How many people applied to get into that? Any clue? There were 26,000 people who applied. And how many got through? Now you can also tell.
12.
It was part of that 1 dozen, who got in.
But we were not the dirty dozen.
We got the wonderful dozen.
Wonderful dozen.
In the 80s, you would also remember a movie that came out, with one handsome actor, and that over-glamorized their Navy and their Air Force also. You remember the name of that movie? Top Gun, where everybody wanted to become a pilot, maybe not in the Indian Air Force, maybe in the US Air Force.
And the concept of Ray-Bans also started.
Ray-Bans also started, and the patch jackets also. So were any one of you inspired by that movie and imagine to see a Tom Cruise like figure there?
I'll be very honest, yes.
I think I met my husband.
I'll be very honest, yes. And that was one of the reasons, not Top Gun, but the uniform really enamored me, and that made me join the Indian Air Force, because I came from a very humble background, a business class family, and I was always enamored by the uniform, the pride, the discipline, and the charisma of the uniform. But I'm talking about 35 years back, when there were no provisions, there was a lot of restriction in the professional and the vocational aspects for the women. So that time the only option available was either you can be a doctor, engineer, or a teacher. So the skies were not open to us, and that is why maybe my passion, I thought, will be only restricted to maybe getting married to a defense officer, because the enigma was very heavy. But at the same time, my auntie, my maternal aunt, was married to an army officer, and that time the advertisement published in the newspaper, women to join the defense forces. So the day the advertisement advertisement came, she came rushing to me and told me, why don't you only become an officer rather than getting married to a defense officer? So that is the main reason I got into this. So the moment I saw the advertisement, I jumped into this career option and made my adorning the uniform my dream.
And question for both of you. How easy or difficult was it to get into a profession which is so male dominated? And how was it?
My first of all, when I start from the training part, it was at Air Force Station Dundigal at Hyderabad. So we were always, when we went there, first thing we were told that you should not accept any concessions because nothing is going to be coming very easy. And it was a litmus test for the defense forces because they were just testing the waters whether the women will sustain the difficult training and the rigorous training or not. So it was a big responsibility on our shoulders because we were thinking we are the pioneers and we have to. It is very challenging because we have to pave way more for the other women to join. If we fail in our endeavor, we won't be able to pave way for the other lady officers to join. So it was challenging, but at the same time, we were very, very enthusiastic, very motivated to join the defense forces. So we gave her the best and see our future is here. Namrata joined after us and then there was no looking back. We have Avni who became the fighter pilot to join the fighter stream. And then the journey continued, and it's very beautiful. I must say, it's still continuing beautifully.
And your views, ma'am? Same thing, the male-dominated profession.
Yeah. For me, I mean, oh God. So especially in flying, it's 100% male-dominated domain. There were a lot of struggles initially, more so internal struggles that you have than coming from outside. And you learn one thing that. Self-belief, the importance of self-belief is so important. So I walked into this crew room, the first posting, there were 20 officers standing there looking at me with so much of doubt whether she'd be able to do the role. Because the role of the unit was doing border recce's. First posting was Jaisalmer. I never wanted to go there. I landed up there. That's another story. And we used to border recce's. We used to fly in a Chetak helicopter. No air conditioner, fly low and slow. Temperatures outside would rise to 50 degrees, inside would be 10 degrees higher. And we would fly sorties ranging anywhere for 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours. So that was very physically, mentally difficult, but never came as a difficulty because you take that as a mission, you want to be the best. And my principle in life has been very simple, that if I do not remember my gender in uniform, it is nobody else's business to do so. And when you kind of have that in mind, the kind of training you've been given, you've been treated equal, you've been also been given the opportunities that everybody has been given. I think you deliver your best, you want to be your best. And that fire inside being your best makes you overcome all the obstacles that come your way, could be physical, mental, emotional, whatever it is. There were, and believe you me, this bunch of people who were looking at me with so much of doubt became my best buddies. And till day we are connected. It's been 35 years, right? Till day we are connected. So that's the power of having a very strong self-belief. That's the power of giving your 100% to what you do. And that's the power of believing in yourself.
What was the call sign on it? What was the call sign?
My call sign, I was called Nam. So we just given a shorter name to your name that you have. I'm still called Nams by all these people that I'm referring to. Yeah.
I mean, being in the Indian Air Force, I understand the grueling schedules.
I'll just pitch in for a question because answer. We are continuing to what Namrata said, what Nam said, because I also call her Nam. She's a great friend of mine. My first posting was at Pune. So since the moderator has been asking what were the challenges, my first posting was at Pune, and there I'm telling you the power of the uniform. I was in uniform as a Piddly pilot officer. We call it Piddly pilot officer because it's a single bib we used to wear. And there were 1,000 male airmen and the officers on the parade ground. I was the only lady standing in the parade ground. But the charisma of the uniform is such, nobody gave me that kind of a feeling, look where women have come. So the way I was also welcomed into the defense forces was very, very charismatic. And some challenges definitely being from the pioneer batch I had, because my warrant officers who used to work with me, they were from rural background and they were not used to taking commands from the women officers. They have already had 35 years of service and I was just 24 years. So they found little bit inhibitions were there to accept us into the uniform, but finally I know sky is the limit and we made it to it.
I do understand being in the Indian Air Force, you have grueling schedules, tough postings. How did you guys manage male attention?
We never got any.
We got because it was you can say initial batch, so a lot of male attention was there initially, not in the wrong sense, but obviously there was a lot of curiosity attached to it, because they wanted to know what are our physical parameters which we can uphold when we are undergoing the training, whether even when we are doing the route marches and we are doing the rifle drills and we are doing firing at the ranges, whether we'll be able to manage with them at par or not. We were actually walking shoulder to shoulder, and in the night at 2 o'clock when we are doing the route marches with them and we are diving into the rice paddy fields which are full of mud, wet mud, that time they used to feel challenging whether we'll be able to come or not. But I'm very sure with their support, I don't want to belittle them because they were like pillars of strength to us. And they were the ones who stood by us in case we used to fall down, fall apart in our motivation, in our courage. They were the ones who were holding our hands and taking us. So we got a lot of courage. They were the strengthening pillars with us. Thank you all the male officers who were part of our journey.
Yeah, I think my biggest mentors have been men than women I've had in my life. That's a fact. And for me, the challenge was when I started flying in the Siachen Glacier, because there was a myth that anytime a lady goes to the base camp, who was a doctor at that point in time, the ceasefire ceases. So when I had to start flying, my CO had this apprehension and he'd heard this, but he was very supportive and he let me go. And I believe the number of times I've landed there, the ceasefire continued seamlessly, there were no incidents. So that was a myth that broke on its own and it continues to break till date. So yeah, that's interesting experiences.
So maybe the Pakistanis were jealous of seeing wonderful footage from there on the border.
I think off the record, I can now talk about it. We did, because we never had GPS on board, so you know how the technology was, right, those days. We would literally do map reading, and on deserts, the only clue you have is the shape of the sand dunes, right, when you are in pure deserts. So it was me and my CEO flying, and then we just happened to see people wearing different uniform. And we looked at each other and we quietly turned 180 degrees and came back and never talked about it ever. But then those smiles in the eyes when we would look and say, oh, you know what we've done? I think that was my first trip abroad in my life.
Ma'am, you have the proud privilege of being in the Limca Book of Records. She and her sister both flew as a pilot and a co-pilot. So ma'am, can you tell us something about that too?
They are called as Chandni sisters in the Air Force.
Yeah. So it wasn't planned, it just happened. So a flying program used to be made by cadets. So some cadet couldn't find people to fly, so then we put both of us together, flying as captain and co-pilot. We did that sortie like a normal sortie, came back, went for debrief, and then came back, and then someone said, you know what you've done today? And we used to be so naive, always scared, shouldn't get caught on the wrong foot for anything, because we always had this thing in mind, they'll chuck us out for any smallest of excuse and reasons. So we said, no, we don't know what we've done. We said, oh, you guys, first pair of sisters in the world to have flown together. And we were not even supposed to express our happiness. So that day when we came back to the mess, that is the time we hugged each other and said, oh, that's what has happened. But interestingly, after that, the CNC came for an inspection and it was proudly told by the CEO, sir, we have the first pair of sisters who flown together as pilot and co-pilot. He said, what? how can relatives fly together? Pass a rule, thereafter no relative is going to fly together. So I think we are responsible for that as well. But we are lucky that before that this had happened and we've done and dusted.
That one person who motivated you to join the Indian Air Force?
My maternal aunt, she's a psychologist herself. So when I did my master's in psychology, she was also part of the journey. She motivated me to join. As I already briefed you, that when she saw the advertisement, then that was the reason she told me, you become an officer yourself, and why don't you, rather than getting married. So she's the one. And there is no dearth of my gratitude to my parents, because I told you I come from a business class family. That time, I'm talking about 35 years back, getting the girl, we are just two sisters. So they wanted the girls to get married as early as possible. So there's a younger sister at home. So a lot of pressure was there on my parents to get us married. And my mother has been played a pivotal role in getting both of us educated. And that time, nobody was interested in sending me to the defense forces, because it was a male-dominated society. But she took the first step and she said, I could not do live my dreams. Now I want my dreams to be taken wings when my daughters fly.
That one motivating person who motivated you?
It was my cousin, but he was a fighter pilot, one of the pioneers who came to MiG-29s, but unfortunately he met with an accident very early. And he died. But he's always been motivating us. We were so enamored to see this handsome young Sardar in uniform. We would listen stories from him about flying, etc. And that came very early on to us because we were young kids. So I think probably that is where it got planted, the dream, and it got materialized. I think we owe a lot to the newspaper reading habit that we had. I also happened to read this ad asking Air Force for women helicopter pilots to join. I was doing my MCA, the first batch in Punjab University, very close to getting placements. 2.5 years down the lane, just a few months to go to get this degree. I see this ad, I leave everything and I join, not knowing what would happen. But all I knew was this is what I wanted in life. I knew what is it that I want. I knew my why. The how and what just kind of unfolded very naturally. So.
You transferred from the Indian Air Force into, after retirement, into the corporate world.
Yeah, I did.
So how did that shift happen and how easy or difficult it is?
So after I retired from the Air Force, which was after 15 years, I did fight for for permanent commission, which I got after 8 years. And now a lot of flying branch officers are getting permanent commission, but for me it was too late. So I joined a company. I was flying in the civil for helicopters. I was flying heli pilgrimage, Kedarnath, Badrinath, if you guys have flown there, been there, Katra, etc. I was flying for elections, did that for 5 years. And having done what I could not do in the military, the kind of missions I flew outside, I was like, what next for me? That hunger to learn, to grow, because I've flown throughout the country now, there was nothing left. Flying a single helicopter, which I had not done. I was flying single pilot missions, which I could not fly in the military, because in the military you always fly pilot and a co-pilot. Then I got this opportunity with Airbus to sell the helicopter that I was flying. And it was like, oh my God, this sounds so interesting. So I joined Airbus. I was selling helicopters in India and South Asia. And now I am heading Bell Helicopters, the director of Bell Helicopters, which is now a competitor of Airbus for India, Bhutan and Nepal. So that's how they journey happened.
How easier or difficult it is to manage a home life along with the professional life? It's tough.
Yes, it is difficult. It's very, very challenging, and at times it is very, very overwhelming. And initially when you get married, you have other responsibilities of your family, and then the additional responsibilities are there when you have children. And managing all three zones has been a very, very difficult thing. But I'm very grateful to the Defence Forces, because when we stay in the campuses, we are away from the family. So the family is our Air Force friends who are there in the campus. They help us in nurturing our children, creating the values. That crowd over there really motivates you कि तुम जाओ. Because I remember we used to get PADGT is a passive air defense, ground defense. where we get sirens and be prepared for the war. So when siren used to blow at 2 o'clock in the night and you have a 2-year-old toddler sleeping beside you, that time leaving the sleeping toddler becomes very, very challenging. Then you tell your friend who's your neighbor, and you tell her that I would request if you can just be by my side, because my husband is also a helicopter pilot. He also had the similar very challenging flying roles. So that time you leave the house at the mercy of your domestic.
I think we've done that because we were neighbors at one stage, and we had each other's back.
Right.
So I would tell her, she'll come, I'm out on detachment, please look out. And she would go,
So they are the pillars who
yeah. So that's a family, a beautiful
that
family.
is the family which helps you to bring up your children, and I'm very proud that we have got 2 children. Daughter is working with Amazon in US, and son is also an engineer. He's now directing the movies. So all credit goes to the development and the personality of Indian Air Force, who helped us to nurture our children.
Thank you, wonderful ladies. It was great having a wonderful conversation with you. It was great talking to you. And any question we can have over the next chapati that we're going to have.